In Bitcoin, we had Bitcoin Talk and Bitcoin Reddit and these things, and eventually the GitHub repos and these things. There was a place to go if you were interested. In the case of Bitcoin and Ethereum, it's an implicit system. So there's no on-chain voting. There's no like 5 people said this and 4 people said this, so we do this. In the case of Cardano, we're actually explicitly inviting. So the first thing you have to do is you got to look at meaningful metrics, not vanity metrics. What does it mean to have legitimacy in a governance system? You can build any governance system you want. You have a dictator, right? Like Bob is in charge. It's like whether you like Bob or not, he's in charge. It's not very legitimate. And you can have pure democracy where every single person votes and then nothing ever gets done. County dog catcher is like a 6-year election or something like that. So there's a spectrum there between absolute power to one and perfectly egalitarian power to every single potential participant inside the system. And then the question is, okay, well, how do you handle choice architecture in that? So like, are you asking your people about every question? Or are you asking your people about a subset of questions related to a particular set of topics, but then they're not allowed to talk about other topics? Like, for example, are they allowed to change the tax rate, but they can't change freedom of speech? That kind of a thing. So the first thing you have to do when you build these types of systems and they get to a certain scale is you have to build some mechanism for people who are interested in governance to self-select and participate. Just create a collection bucket. In Bitcoin, we had Bitcoin Talk and Bitcoin Reddit and these things, and eventually the GitHub repos and these things. There was a place to go if you were interested. And you need some sort of change management system where people who want to evolve the system can write it down in a very careful way. So in Bitcoin's case, it was a Bitcoin improvement proposal. On Ethereum, it's the Ethereum improvement proposal. And for us, it's the CIP, the Cardano improvement proposal. But it's just a structured way of discussing how you wish to change. Then there's a question of, do you want to do this implicitly or explicitly? In the case of Bitcoin and Ethereum, it's an implicit system. So there's no on-chain voting. There's no like 5 people said this and 4 people said this, so we do this. In the case of Cardano, we're actually explicitly inviting this. This is one of the biggest differentiators between Cardano, Polkadot, EOS, and these other things, is that we're really serious about governance to the extent that we're actually doing foundational research in e-voting. We're building new voting systems. We're exploring preference voting and quadratic voting. And the long and the short is that we want more and more people to participate in voting for things. And you have to start somewhere. So our hypothesis is we can bootstrap the system with the treasury system. So in Cardano, some of the inflation goes to the block producers, just like any other cryptocurrency, but some goes into a decentralized treasury. She now has over $1 billion of ADA in it. So it's a lot of money. And that treasury is not under my control or the foundation's control. It's actually controlled by the community as a whole through a program called Catalyst. And so all these people can come together, they can submit spending ballots, and other people who hold ADA can vote to approve that. What's nice about it is you have a growth engine to improve two axes. One is absolute participation. So increase the amount of people who hold ADA participating, so the absolute number of people participating. And the other is meaningful participation. So the depth of participation. Did you just show up and vote? Or did you spend hours debating things on Idea Scale, the innovation management platform, interacting with the funding proposal, going back and forth? And there's dozens of little things like that. Now, my hypothesis is if you run this with enough iterations, eventually you get to a certain critical mass, like over 50% absolute participation and a high level of meaningful participation, where you can move beyond funding and you can start actually having meaningful questions about protocol design and improvement proposals and so forth. And then what you can do is you can roll out new voting systems and new social structures, and you can let them start voting on training wheels like system parameters, like, for example, the minimum transaction fee or that K parameter for the amount of stake pools or these types of things. Okay. Then they build enough competency there and they move up a next level and they actually start talking about hard forks using the update system, the hard fork combinator system. See, so that's how you
voting on a hard fork.
Voting on a hard fork. You can't do it unless your social dynamics are right and your voting system is right. And by the way, you also need to write a constitution around the same time, because not all hard forks are created equally. The kinds of things that would add support for a new cryptographic primitive are distinctly different from the kinds of things that would change your monetary policy of the system.